Reading is great. There's no doubt about that at all. And it's also a fantastic way to learn a second language. It improves your vocabulary, knowledge of the language structure, and lets you take your time to understand. But learning to read in a brand new language is a massive challenge. At first, you're painfully slow, and there are constantly new words that you don't know. It can be a little demoralizing to start, but that's what I'm here to, hopefully, solve for you today. We're going to talk about where to find stories to read and what I've been using to read for the past few months in Czech. A quick disclaimer before I get into the video. Lots of this video is pretty tech-oriented. If you don't like technology, want to spend less time on your computer, or just hate setting things up, the rest of the video probably isn't your cup of tea. But if you still want to learn to read, I highly recommend you do anything to start doing it. Whether it's reading with a Kindle, Link, or one of those, what do they call them? Books, that's the word. They all work amazing. I recommend you keep watching though, since this isn't all tech talk. Let's start with what to read. This can either be the easiest or the hardest part of the process depending on your target language and your mood. But there are lots of places to look for books on the internet. One of the easiest options is Amazon, which can work great, but the issue is that you can't download books to use on your own. It only works on a Kindle or Kindle app. So the rest of the video doesn't apply, because what we're looking for is a way to get ebooks that you can actually download. The site that I use for buying Czech books is Kobo. In the past, I've downloaded Spanish books from EPUB Libre. Every language probably has different popular sites, but the real trick I've recently discovered, especially for beginners, are web novels. Web novels are stories written by amateur authors and published for free. They exist in tons of languages and often use easier vocabulary than traditional books. And they're super easy to download. Let's start by doing that. Go to Wattpad.com and look for a story that seems interesting. If you've never used this site before, like me just a few weeks ago, things might seem a little weird. Most web novels are people exploring their own specific interests and niches, and so there's lots of stuff that you probably won't love. But I'm sure you can find something, as there's always something for someone. Plus, when you're just starting out, cheesy plots and cliches actually make it a bit easier to follow. Make an account and follow the prompts on screen to jumpstart the suggestions. And don't forget to change your story language to your target language. I recommend you don't be super picky in the beginning, since it's 100% free to start a story and decide if it's not for you and then just grab another. Let's look at how to download them. If you have an ebook that you downloaded from another site, you'll also want to follow along with this next step. The best ebook management tool is Calibre, which you can install from their site. It's just a few clicks. Accept everything and then open it up. Then to download the web novel, I'll get a plugin called FanFicFare. Go to Preferences, Plugins, Get New Plugins, and it should be near the top. If not, search for FanFicFare and click on it. Then install. It should take a moment and then tell you to restart. Once you've done that, you'll see this icon in the top right. You may need to make the window a bit larger for it to show. Then click on the little arrow and add story from URL. Then paste the link to the story that you picked out and it'll download. It does take a while, but it'll do it. Now, you'll see the story here in the main area. If you have a book or bought a book from a different site, this is where you'll upload it and import it. Now, we need to convert it to a .txt to use with Lute. To do that, I'll click Convert, then choose the output format as .txt, then click OK. And ta-da! Now we'll need to know where that is, so I also click on the path of the file. This will open where the file is. I usually find it easiest to copy that file and put it somewhere a little more convenient, like the desktop. Remember where it is because we'll need it later. And now, we're gonna get to Lute, which is the whole point of the video. It is a bit technical, but really not too bad, I promise. Before shooting this, I sat in a call with our editor and walked him through everything in this video. He had nothing done beforehand and hadn't even seen the script. Even with a not great internet connection between us, it only took about 45 minutes. None of which he ever needs to do again. The secret video of us doing it from start to finish is down in the description. I estimate that someone who's comfortable-ish with technology could follow the instructions in 30 minutes. Someone who's less so, more like 40 or 45. And someone who's quite technical almost certainly could do it way faster. If those numbers sound scary to you, but like the idea, then I recommend using Link. It's a very similar reading tool, and you can do a lot of the same things. It also works on mobile, there's no weird setup, it just works. It is searching US dollars a month at the time of recording, so that's the main thing to keep in mind. But if you're interested in something that's more flexible, free, then definitely keep watching. We'll be using Docker to set up and install Lute. Thankfully, it's also pretty easy to get going. I'm going to talk you through the setup for Windows machines, but it's very easy on Linux and should be quite easy on macOS too. First, go to the command prompt on your computer. You can find this guy going to the bottom left and type cmd, then hit enter, and type wsl space -- update. This just updates a part of your computer that Docker is going to need later. As that's working, let's go to download Docker and download the .exe. Link is in the description. Then, you should be able to follow the instructions and click OK. Make sure that it has access to everything it needs, and then continue as a guest unless you want to make an account, I guess. Now, we actually want to close this and go back to the command prompt. Here, you can type docker space pull space hello-world and hit enter and it'll download. Then run docker space run space hello-world, hit enter again and verify that everything is working. This is just the startup script to prove that Docker is all correct and everything like that. And when you see this, you know you're good to go. That's Docker installed. If you have issues, check out the Refold Discord. There are tons of people who are more than happy to help you if you're polite. Just make sure to provide lots of pictures and a description of what you did so that they can help you more easily. And now we'll get Lute. Go to the releases tab of the GitHub page and download the latest_release.zip. This is linked to the description as well. Now you'll need to make a file on your computer somewhere to put all these Lute files. It doesn't really matter where, so let's just say the desktop. Make a folder called Lute, then in that folder you'll make two more, one called Lute_release and one called Lute_backup. Now, drag that zip file that you downloaded into the release folder and unzip it. All the files should be in Lute release. Now, click on where the URL should be on the files there and copy. This is the location of the file so that we can tell Docker where to look for these files. Okay, just a few more things here that we need to change. Find the .env file and delete it. If you don't see one, you may need to show hidden files. On Mac, that's Command-Shift period. On Linux, it's Control-H. And on Windows, it's a pain in the ass. Just kidding. Select View, Options, change Folder and Search Options. Then, select the View tab and in Advanced Settings, select Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives, and then OK. Then you can see all the files. Now delete that .env and rename the .env.example.docker to just env. You're replacing it. Now, open that file with a text editor. Notepad is great. And edit the backup host dir thing with that location that you have copied to your clipboard. It should go just after the equal sign. You can select all the text after it and then just hit paste. Now, save this file. Command or Control S. And we'll go back to the command prompt now. Type cd space and then paste in that location. Hit enter and it should change on the left to say the location where you saved all of your Lute files. Now type docker compose build and hit enter. This will take a minute the first time you do it. Once it finishes, type docker compose up -d and hit enter one more time. I would also recommend opening a text editor and pasting in those commands so that you never need to do this again. You don't need to remember anything. You can just open the file and use those saved commands. Oh, and save that file in the Lute folder so you also don't lose that. Now, we can open our browser and finally use Lute. Type localhost :8000 into the URL of any browser, and if everything went well, you'll be looking at Lute. There are some stories already added to give you a tutorial. You can play around with them to test stuff, but first let's check a few settings. Click on languages in this little menu here. Then you'll see the pre-installed languages. If your target language isn't here, you'll need to add it. Lute can handle basically any language, but it hasn't been taught how to do that yet for most of them. When I added Czech, I just copied the German entry and I made a few changes to fit Czech. Currently, Lute works best with Latin languages, Japanese, and classical Chinese, the ones that are basically in the list. If you really want a language to be supported but don't think you can figure it out yourself, I'd recommend you join the Lute Discord server and politely ask. I'm sure people would be more than delighted to help you set up a new language. But I do want to show you this dictionary thing. You can use most online dictionaries by looking up a word, then copying the URL of the result and pasting it in here and replacing the word with ###. You might want to do this if you don't like the dictionary that's there by default. There's more you can do here if you're technical, but we'll leave it at that. Now, it's time to import our first book. Save any changes, go back home, click on Create New Text, select the language at the top, Add a title for your reference and then click Choose File. Now we'll need that file from earlier. I put it on the desktop, so double click and done. If you have an issue, it's either not a text file or you need to set which language it is. I forgot to do that many times. And now we can start reading. At first, you'll see everything highlighted in blue. That means they're new words, which makes sense since you haven't been reading yet. Lute doesn't come with any dictionaries installed, but that's the whole point. You start collecting the words you know. Whenever you click on a word, it'll open up that word's information over on the right. Pull it from an external dictionary, that sort of thing. This is where all the magic of Lute happens. The first thing I always do is set the parent or the head word. This is the word that it appears in the dictionary. For example, the word ran is a word, but you won't find ran in the dictionary. It's just a different version of run. Run is the parent word. And this is the magic of Lute. You start connecting all the words together. Allowing your brain to explicitly explore patterns of words is very useful for learning. Your brain is already doing this, but we're doing it on purpose by adding the words here. You can also add several if you want. For example, using English again, the phrase, I should ask him out, might want to have several parents. Just regular old ask, but also ask out would make sense. So if you're learning the word ask for the first time, it might make sense to connect them to both. Now, here's a fun part. In the top right of the menu, there's a little eye. If you click on it, this will search Google for images that might be related to that word. And then you can click on one of them to permanently save it to that word. This is great for words that are hard to remember or just for people who like colors. Plus it's fun. It is just searching Google, so it's not guaranteed to pull up anything, especially for adverbs or abstract ideas. The other day, I clicked on something that apparently was a famous dude's name, so all the pictures were just of him posing. Just make sure to always hit save after you're done editing. Under the parents box is the translation or definition box, and this is where you put what the word actually means. I generally just use English here, but you can do it however you want. I also add a different number to separate the meanings. Let's look at an example from my Czech learning. Here, zawod means both race but also factory, so separating them makes sense to me, a first and second definition. You may notice that my page is much more colorful, which is the next thing under the definition. That's the learning level. This is just how well you know a word. 1 means that it's very new, you have a definition, but that's it. 2 is a word that you've seen a few times and are starting to recognize, but it's still unknown. 3 is something that you're starting to get, and if there's context, you'll probably remember. 4 is a word that you understand most of the times you see it. And then finally, 5 is a word that you basically know, maybe not fully, but it's almost there. And then WKN, word known, is for words that you know. You don't want them to show up anymore since you don't need to learn them. And then IGN is ignore. It's a word that just should be ignored by the system, so proper nouns, made-up words, English words, that sort of thing. These names here, Luke and Emma, are ignored, for example, so they don't even show up as a word. You can also change these values with the keyboard. Make sure to close this window on the right with the save button first, and now you can hover over any words and press 1 through 5, W or I. Those will set that word to that state. This is great when you come across a word that you want to level up or quickly change. But we're not quite done with the word menu. We also have this little box for tags. This is 100% optional, but if you want to mark words with something, this is where you'll do it. I have 2 tags that I use regularly, cognate and false friend. I tag words with cognates if they're basically the same as English. For example, this word kartičku means card. This is only if you want to be super meticulous with your dictionary. So unless you're weird like me, I wouldn't really recommend doing it. And false friends are the opposite. They seem like something that's in English, but they actually mean something different. So if I go over to my terms database, we can look at the words and see that brood doesn't actually mean proud, it just means current or flow or torrent. But feel free to use tags however you want. Actually, now's a great time to talk about that. You should be using the tool in the way that works for you. You don't always have to put in a definition or parent, especially if you're already fairly advanced in the language. You don't want to waste your time. If I were to start reading in Spanish with this, I wouldn't bother making a dictionary for myself. I would have my finger hovered over the W key and mark most of the words as known. However, for those of you who like to make cool things, this is an opportunity to do that. One of the things I'm doing with my Czech learning is to make a downloadable dictionary for future Czech learners. It gives me a goal with my learning and makes it feel more fun. That's the overview of the tool. Hopefully it's fairly clear, but it will definitely take some playing with to get used to. But as you're playing with it, try to think about what you really like and don't like. This tool is in active development, and the person working on it wants it to be as useful as possible. You can leave a comment on this video or go over to the GitHub page and open a ticket. That way, the dev can keep track of everything more easily. He is just one dude after all, but he has big dreams for the project. On the feature backlog page, you can see the things that he wants to add, such as audio support, word pronunciations, Anki connection, the ability to search in books, other quality of life changes, and much, much more. If you're a developer and would like to work on a cool project, I highly recommend digging around in the GitHub and seeing if there's anything you can contribute to. A few more cool things to mention before we wrap up here. You don't need to read just books. You can also import web pages, or even just copy and paste whatever. The English story I was using from earlier was actually something I generated with ChatGPT. You can have it make little stories for you to read and paste them in. I think I'll make a video about that soon. You can also sometimes use the sentences button to see other times you've come across a word. It's useful if you want to check context or see other examples of a word. I think it only works with things you've already seen, so some words don't have other sentences to show since you've only seen them exactly once. There's also a way to go and look at all the terms you've saved. There are a few ways to filter it, but I find it most useful to put in the language, check, and click on the parent terms only button up here in filters, and then at the very bottom I see how many words I've saved. And then I can filter by the words I know fairly well and very well and see there are over 600 of those. Not bad. This number will just go up and up and up, which makes me feel really good and excited about continuing to read. I'm also planning on reading the subtitles of some TV shows and movies to help build out my base of words even more. And the more terms you've saved and come across, the more useful the estimated word count is. It's just looking at how many words you've come across before, so unless you've read millions of words, most numbers will seem low, but you can compare them to each other to guess how easy a text will be. All right, I'm gonna leave things here. I feel like I've already been talking too much about this tool. It's just been so useful and revolutionary for my own language learning, I really wanted to share it, even if it's still being worked on. I hope you found this useful, and I really hope you give it a try. Downloading it's a little scary, but I promise it's really not that bad. Like I mentioned in the description of the video, you can find a full-length video of me walking our video editor through the installation from start to finish. Hopefully, that makes it even more approachable. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with any of your reader friends, even if they're not already learning a language. This might make them think about the possibility of doing it through reading. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Happy immersing. Hey, as you know, there's a lot of language learning advice out there, which can make it kind of overwhelming and difficult to actually get going on your own learning. If you feel like you're struggling to figure out language learning, you're not alone. It's an extremely complicated process with tons of different steps. If you're looking for a step-by-step guide to create the perfect language learning routine for you, then you have to check out our new course. We spent thousands of hours designing a simple and straightforward process that you can use to create your own personalized language routine that actually works. We understand that every learner is different and that you have to roll with the punches and adapt. Every day for 30 days, I walk you through everything you need to know to build an effective learning routine, no matter your circumstances. We give you the advice and resources you need to ensure your success, so you don't have to waste time looking for stuff to do and can focus on learning. And if any questions do come up, don't worry. We are always there to answer any questions and clear up confusion. And it's all backed by our 90-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If, for whatever reason, something's not quite working for you, we insist you get every penny back. It's time for you to stop wishing that you could learn a second language. It's time to become the master of your language learning journey. Check out the link below to get instant access and start your journey today.